of the year and possibly of my life. We have a guest, Anna Prosser Robinson. She plays Evelyn. Thank you so much for being here.
One of those special days of your life. Now I'm nervous.
Of course.
Can't mess it up.
And with me today, I have 3 expert waffle talkers. Dylan, how are you?
I'm doing good. Hi.
Rina, how are you?
I'm doing well as well.
All right, you ready to waffle talk with Anna Prosser Robinson?
Yeah.
And Shauna, how you doing?
Doing pretty good.
And Shauna, I saw half of Hell's Bells so far, episode 5, and it was awesome. You guys are awesome.
Thanks.
So today, everybody in the chat, you can just ask Anna questions, and we'll just let her talk. Yeah. And we just watched episode 102. Where
Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah, that's actually something I want to know.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
102 episodes, that's 204 hours. And actually even more than that, considering that some of them were longer and like Waffles Inc. was longer.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that it's gone by so fast.
It really yeah, like I was thinking you'll probably go, do you think 200 episodes with this group probably at this rate?
We talk a lot about how we have no intention of ever ending this game.
Oh, really?
And
that's all right.
In fact, everyone was like, when are they going to level? When are they going to level? And we actually specifically had a talk with Chris where we were like, it's okay if we don't level because we know that once we hit 20, it's only a matter of time. So just, it's fine. So, they say 6 seasons in a movie. We're like, 20 seasons in a movie? We'll see.
I think
Critical
Role went.
Mm-hmm.
Did Critical Role go 100? Is that what it was?
It was a little more than 100.
A little more, yeah.
Episodes?
So Dice Camera Action will go way past that probably, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be like the longest running D&D stream.
I didn't realize that Critical Role only did 100.
Well, their first season was like 120 something.
Mm-hmm. So they might be like 130, maybe.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. So you guys will probably blow right past that, and you'll be the longest running stream.
With the same characters. Yeah.
That's the thing is with the same characters. Because Miss Click's D&D, which I did for like 5 years, was a very long running campaign, but we had different characters mostly every year.
Mm-hmm.
So
all right.
It's been like 2 years now.
Shauna, do you want to recap this episode real quick?
All right. The DF comes back from his little fishing trip and discovers the aftermath of what happened in 101 and goes looking for waffles. And the rest of the Waffle crew play 3 children that find waffles and attempt to rescue her from what appear to be Xanathar people. And they, with waffles, help break her out and help apprehend the said agents with the help of Diath. And that's where we end. So we end with the lady that had basically been antagonizing the children being caught by Diath while she was invisible. And that's
in a really cool way too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shauna, what's your theory on that?
It would be the worst thing, but that is the person that during the question and answer that Jared that he would like to have someone from Diath's past, and I'm thinking maybe former girlfriend. Maybe. Significant other.
Did they didn't say her name in the episode, right?
Nope.
Oh.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it would be bad.
No names were dropped.
Oh. Because I know the name of the person he wants to come back. Oh, that would my tummy. That's gonna be a big one.
Interesting.
Boy, oh boy.
And that lady was with the ball gown and the long boots, right?
Not
the wedding gown.
Yeah.
And that was that Diath's, in theory, that might be Diath's ex-girlfriend, is that right?
If that's the case, I don't know.
That would be the worst case scenario, just like
it could be.
Worst case scenario.
I wonder what New Strix would think of that.
Oh God.
All right. Any of you guys have any questions for Anna before I start firing off chat questions?
I have a question about this episode. Were the kid characters pre-generated by Chris, or did you guys make those?
He pre-generated them, sent them all to us, and we're like, which do you guys want to play? And it was just the most heartwarming, sweet thing because in the email thread where we all picked who we wanted to play, everyone already knew who each person should be. Like none of us fought over the characters. It was like Holly was like, I want Jenks. Nate was like, Squidly is me. And I was like, I wanted Nat anyway. And Jared was like, of course I'm Waffles. So yeah, Jared canonically is the player of Waffles. So
Yes.
Is there a reason for that, or is it just how it ended up?
I think it was, well, I mean, in the pet episode, it made sense that I would be Juniper and Holly would be Stinky. So that left Waffles. And so Jared was. And then he did such a good job with the little Waffles noises that canonically those are Waffles noises.
Yes.
So,
Oh my God.
Those are canon. Those are
Yeah.
canon
Just
Waffles
saying.
noises.
Just saying, those are the cutest waffle noises ever.
yeah.
Rina, you got a question for Anna?
I saw this in chat as it was flying by,
Mm.
but it looks like, based off of that, with the kids, that Strix is getting an apprentice and Dieth is getting a thiefling. Is Evelyn getting a page?
Oh, that could be fun. I have an idea. Like the reason I asked if we were going to get to talk to the kids is that I have an idea for how Evelyn would interact with Nat, but I didn't do it at the end of the episode. I kind of wish I had, but Chris said we could open with it next time, so no spoilsies. But that would be cool. Evelyn getting a page could be neat. Evelyn kind of collects people, so if anyone ever wants to like stay with her, she'll let them.
That's cool. They could watch the house while the Waffle Crew is out on adventures and stuff. Right?
What could
Yeah.
go wrong with children watching the house?
Yeah, I mean, how much worse could it be than the Waffle Crew? Honestly,
Wait,
That's
though.
true.
You're right. I forgot.
You roll better as the kids most of the time.
Yeah.
Don't leave those kids in that house, please. I forgot.
Oh,
Shauna,
God.
Shauna, do you have any questions you want to?
Speaking of crossover stuff, you've had the opportunity to basically interact with a person from the Waffle Crew with two different characters. How was that doing like the past thing in Birdcage and how that like unraveled?
Like interacting with baby Strix.
Mm-hmm.
It was really weird because Anna wanted to say a whole bunch of things to baby Strix and like interact with her in certain ways and make a lot of inside baseball references. But Will, my character on Trapped in the Birdcage, was just like, not super interested. Thought that Strix was kind of annoying. Strix didn't like her because Strix doesn't like people who steal things. So it was funny. Like it was a funny role-playing challenge to not interact with Strix more, or in any case where we see stuff that has to do with DCA, my impulse is to be like inside joke, but you have to pepper it with the real role play, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there's a bunch of questions in the chat. Chat, it helps if you say one of our names, like at whatever, it sticks out easier. So
Yeah, the all cap question thing actually helps a lot.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So Frodo
Or
Squall.
just the all caps question, and then the question.
Frodo Squall 2 asks, does the Waffle Crew actually have the keys to the front door, or was it open when they got there and they just went with it?
To the front door of our house?
Yeah. Troll Skull Manor.
I don't know. It never occurred to Evelyn to check. That Diaz handles that kind of thing.
I guess Strix could just put an arcane lock on there, right?
Yeah.
She has that. Frodo Squall 2 has another question. Asked before, Strix is getting oh, okay, that's the one you brought up about the apprentices. I think that would be really cool because it's funny. The heroes are 10th level. That's like name level, 10th or 11th level, and in olden days, that's when you acquire hirelings. So it'd be funny to see the Waffle Crew with a bunch of hirelings and see what happens.
Oh, no.
Then.
That'd be fun.
Let's see. What is this? Ravina 666. Did Anna or Chris decide to make Nat deaf?
She was pre-made deaf.
Oh, okay.
Which was really cool. And I saw Aya Golander in chat asked if that was real sign that I was using. Mm-hmm. It was like a Frankenstein of the fact that I used to have a deaf friend and know ASL pretty well. So I remember like very basic movements and signs. And then when I was in India, I had friends who were deaf who taught me Indian street sign, which is not ASL. So I remember a very few pieces of that. So it was like Frankenstein. It was mostly me making movements that don't mean anything, but I was trying.
You were in India?
Yeah. I spent some time volunteering for Mother Teresa's organization there.
Wow. That's
Yeah, it was really cool.
awesome. Paladin 7779. Love to hear Anna's thoughts on how Evelyn's dealing with the events of Waffles Inc.
Ooh.
How she's dealing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing that Nate and I were talking about that was interesting is when Paladin and Evelyn were on their own and they faced the Mercy Killers. We are so used to Dieth and Strix being like, run, we can't fight this. This is too big. You can't, like, this is not sensible. You can't even win. That when we don't have them there, we're like, why don't we fight this thing? And we did. And Evelyn actually 1v1 to Mercy Killer, which she didn't think before she could do because of how it had been presented to her before. So I think in that sense, and also she was like very much the biggest damage dealer of the whole thing. And so I think for her that there was a sense of like, of power or like capability that came from that. She also felt really good about the whole Strix being adopted thing, because I think the idea of the ritual being of anything about the ritual being not as it seemed really bothered Evelyn, because she decided to give her life in exchange for her friends. And so finding out that like, oh, that may threaten the multiverse, and like actually they were married without their consent and all this other stuff was just a little like, for Evelyn, that was very disconcerting. As much as people actually don't tell Evelyn very much, like she didn't know most of that until Waffles Inc. because nobody talks to Evelyn. But so I think that she finds that to be a very like happy ending and a lot of stress off. But that's a big question. Like any specific events in Waffles Inc. that you want to know about, let me know. Because there's a lot happened.
Being sucked into her own demi-plane of dread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was something.
Yeah.
Came
That
out.
was.
Evelyn was a Dark Lord for like 5 minutes. That was crazy.
Well, and I think it was very telling because, of course, Chris knows what will mess with us the most before we even do, but that all of her friends were dead and it was her fault, and that they were in the graveyard with her family was very telling. And I think that will probably harken to like what it'll be like when Evelyn goes back to her ancestral home in Waterdeep and the feelings she has about like letting them down. And also it says that she equates, the Waffle crew with family in a way too. But I think that, I don't know, I'm still figuring out how to process the fact that, what she felt there, because I think she knows it was like not real, but calling out to Lathander in a moment of need and him not being there, even though it's not real and you're in a domain of dread, is probably like, it shakes her,
Imagine.
All right.
Followed right after by meeting Asmodeus, of all people.
Yeah. You met the devil, like Satan of D&D.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
He was kind of nice, wasn't he? He was
I think that was confusing. She's like, he's actually fairly reasonable. I mean, I gave him an idea about adopting Strix. He seemed to think it was a good idea. Like, my friends are okay now.
Yeah.
Very confusing.
He was nice. It was kind of like a cool guy,
Yeah.
The Fosley. Did Construct... Oh, we're going to do a foot question here. Did Construct Evelyn not have both feet? If so, wouldn't her body have had her foot back when Omen resurrected her?
These questions are tough because I have the tendency to want to tell y'all everything.
Ooh.
But it's also really fun for you when things come out in the show and you learn things from the show. I will say that okay. I will correct certain assumptions, which are that everyone was like, oh, when Paladin saw Evelyn's leg in the bathhouse, that wasn't the first time that anyone had seen her without her shoes on. that was the first time in the campaign anyone had looked closely enough to see Evelyn without her shoes on. Trust me, because I was waiting for that moment for a really long time.
Wow.
As far as how a construct body works when changed back into a human body, it's like however Chris and I want it to work. So it actually doesn't matter what the answer to that question is.
That's fair.
And I will also say the boots are magical and fit whoever they are presented to. So it's not like a normal pair of boots. They're magic boots. So if I handed them to you, they would fit you perfect no matter what your feet are like. So do with all those pieces of information what you will.
The foot mystery
continues.
I can't solve the foot mystery. I don't know how the foot was gone. I don't know what the big deal with the foot is. It's definitely a long.
Maybe it's not a big deal.
Maybe,
yeah.
Maybe not. All right, I'm gonna ask a question. Then Rina, you do the next one, okay? So we did that one. That was the foot, the epic foot question. How about Scotty Hood? Hey, Scotty. Question for Anna: is Evelyn able to cast Greater Restoration? If so, do you think she could cure Nat's deafness?
Well, that's a two-part question. Let me double check. I don't think Evelyn can do Greater Restoration. I get confused between all the games with who has what. I don't think she does. She has lesser restoration right now.
Oh.
But I don't think Evelyn would see deafness as something to be cured unless Nat asked her to. Because Evelyn doesn't see generally those kinds of conditions as something to be to assume is a weakness.
Okay. Rina, you got a question?
Yeah, if I can just straighten my notes. So if someone has a question first.
Did you have a big thing of notes again, like the last time with all the colors and stuff?
Oh, not that big, no.
Shauna, do you have one?
Going into season 4 after how grueling season 3 was, did you have any things you wanted to bring up with Evelyn or anything you wanted to have her be a goal for this season at all?
In this season?
Mm-hmm.
There's surprisingly little about Evelyn's backstory that's canonized.
Mm-hmm.
And being back in Waterdeep has given her a lot of opportunities to kind of give windows into that. So I'm really excited in two ways. One, to reveal that to the audience, because there's a lot that I have kind of held back and been excited to reveal, but also because Chris changes those things on us all the time. I've sent him a treatise of Evelyn backstory, and I don't know how much of it he's read. I don't know how much of it he accepts as canon. I don't know what he's going to change about it. So I'm excited to find out alongside everyone a lot of this backstory. And we have been writing our own ball episode fanfic for so long. And I will tell you that we were in the car with Chris Perkins and mentioned the ball episode that takes place at Marthane Manor. And he was like, Marthane Manor? I like that. The ball, huh? I could see that. So there may be a ball episode at Marthane Manor in our future.
Oh, rad.
Wow.
Dear Lord.
Wow. Okay, Rina, you got a question?
I do actually. Why did Evelyn leave Paulton to do the parenting with Simon last episode when they found out he had, kidnapped a little boy?
Because she saw her job as fixing the kidnapping first. Because, she, as a paladin in Waterdeep, before she met the crew, her whole job was wake up every morning, go out in Waterdeep, find some problem or need and fill it. So I imagine some days she was at the hospital feeding patients, and some days she was ridding the outskirts of the town of a monster. Sometimes she was searching for a lost kid, those kinds of things. She's basically a handy policeman kind of figure. So I think when in Waterdeep, if she's like, here is a child that has been kidnapped, her first priority is like, my job is to make sure this kidnapped child is returned to their parents. And since Simon has another parent, he can be taking care of that. I think if not, she would have been like, you stay here while I fix this. And then she would have come back and dealt with it. But also like, Evelyn calls Simon her son, but there's like a small part of her that's like, is he? So I don't know if she would have felt like, I don't know though, because there were some subtleties in that episode that I think we're still going to have to deal with. Like, even though he was maybe joking, Paulton suggesting that they kill the kid instead of dealing with it. Like, Evelyn hauled off and slapped him, which she's never done bodily harm to Paulton before. And everyone was like, ha ha, funny, which it kind of was, but also maybe a big deal. So, I don't know. That was a bunny trail, but the short answer is she thought it was her job.
Okay.
Rina, you got one?
I was going to ask about the slap, and then she brought it up. So this is going kind of back before Dice Camera Action even started. But it's like, did you have other options to play in DCA, and how did you settle on Evelyn?
Other characters?
Yeah.
I had played Evelyn in another campaign before on Misclicks, and she had an untimely death. And I really liked her and wanted to, like, it was like, I want the chance to play her again. And I probably wouldn't get the chance on Misclicks, which was my only other game at the time. So I didn't really consider anyone else except her, but I did retool her significantly. She had a different deity, I even rolled different stats for her, which was a big deal because she already had great stats, but I was like, I want her to be fresh. And I rolled super great stats again, which I never, if you watch Dice Camera Action, my dice are not good. So she was a blessed child.
All right. There's a million questions. Here we go. Ready? We did the killing a kid question, although we should talk more about that at some point. But Adol 1004 says, I think the horn that Dieth got is a horn of silent alarm from Xanathars. Who do you think gave the group those items? That's a good question.
Ooh. I think Chris Perkins gave the group those items.
Really?
I think that he likes the fourth wall breaking thing, and that he just, because he said they were DM presents. But I mean, I could be wrong. Otherwise, it could be, who would give us presents in Waterdeep? I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been Omen.
Omen would have taken credit for it.
Exactly.
Omen would never do anything for Evelyn without being like, I did that.
Would have left a very nice letter.
Chat is saying Magnus.
I was thinking Magnus too, but Magnus gave us a house.
Fair.
Yeah.
But Magnus is Magnus.
That's true. He's a nice guy.
And all the magic items he has are like have scorpion tails and stuff on them. So it would have been a whack.
He just bought all their stuff at Fantasy Costco.
Okay.
Costco.
Yeah. I do think it's Perkins because I think I remember Twitter. He said, I made the Cloak of Billowing. He owned that. And so
Nate started it, but the fourth wall breaking thing, and Chris put himself in the shared Acking DCA universe in the Acquisitions Incorporated game. So Chris Perkins does exist in that universe. And so I think he likes playing with that. So that's why I just automatically assume that these are like actually their 10th level presents from Chris Perkins.
Maybe someday you'll literally run into him.
Oh,
in
God.
game or something.
I wouldn't be surprised.
That would be weird. All right, I don't quite get this one. Sirion Blood Moon. Evelyn's view on Walk's tin thing that happened with the C team. Is that Walnut?
Walnut and Paulton?
Oh, yeah. What's Evelyn's view on it? What is Evelyn's view on that? And just where's she at with Paulton in general?
Oh, I saw someone asking about Omen versus Paulton too, and like how she feels about those relationships and things. So the complete answer is the last time Evelyn and Paulton talked about feelings, Paulton said, basically, do not have feelings for me because I'm not interested in having feelings. And that is something that I am not willing to do. Like, feelings make things hard. I'm not into it. And the message that Evelyn got was like, we're friends. That's all. The end. Yeah. So she has been trying her best to like respect that and be just like, we're just friends and adventuring party members together. And that's, I think, why she was even more open to something like Omen. And I think she looks at Omen as a more like logical, sensible partner choice because he's like the religious type. He's very successful. He seems responsible. He is friends with her friends. You know, just like he checks a lot of boxes. So it's not like she's like, oh my gosh, dreamy Omen. But it's like, he's a good pen pal. We'll see where it goes. And then as far as all the other kind of love interests, everyone's like, oh, how many love interests does Evelyn have now? She's clueless. She doesn't understand that those are love interests. She thinks, I don't think Evelyn generally assumes people are into her. Like, she doesn't even assume Omen's into her. She thinks that they're pen pals, you know? So.
I remember in the beginning of the show, it used to make me like almost mad. Like, that people would treat your character really poorly. There was a time where Evelyn was on a horse or something on Morning Glory, and the group had just been through something bad, and Evelyn goes, hey, you know, get on. She goes to each character, and every character refused to get on the horse with Evelyn, and I'm just like, what is going, you know what I mean? But now it's kind of flipped, where everybody is super nice to Evelyn. It's like Evelyn is now like in demand. It's very interesting to see that. Like, I like it. I get a kick out of it now. It's kind of like, all right, that's.
I get a huge kick out of the Return to Waterdeep too, because it's a really good picture of something I was really trying to show with Evelyn, which is that her whole life she's been in this role of servant to the church, servant to the city of Waterdeep, someone who's well loved and respected, even something of a little bit of a celebrity in her hometown. Everybody kind of like not worships her, but, you know, like, wow, what a perfect example Evelyn is of someone who's good and who serves and all of that. And so, and she's proud of that, and that's who she is, and that's what she wants to be. But this adventure that she took, where she just left with these people, left all of those responsibilities, which wasn't necessarily something wrong that she did, but it was something that was like a different thing than she's ever done. She felt I think you can tell she felt a sense of freedom and a sense of like, this is me getting to kind of be me and be with people who see me not as that role, but just as a person. And then so coming back is like, it's really nice that everyone gives her this preferential treatment and she has a measure of power and a measure of privilege in this place. But she's also feeling this dissonance between like fitting back into that role and what she thinks that role looks like and being her own person. And I think that something that's really, that I'm interested in exploring is how she can learn to make her own place in that role. Because I think that, you know, she's been being what everyone told her to be, and she still wants to be that, but I think she can be that on her own terms. And one thing that I'm using to symbolize that is, remember when she was really enjoying wearing that dress with the armor, and then she got back in town, and then she was like, I have to wear this and that, and I have to look this way. And no one told her to do that. There's no rule that she has to, but she felt that pressure to. And so I think that like, there's going to be some turning point where she's going to be like, I can take ownership of this for myself and I can define it for myself. And I hope that this whole Aminator thing and the like statue of her in the temple and all of that will kind of bring that moment about. I'm really excited for that, because I think questions of identity within something you've already established are really, really interesting. Like that kind of coming of age story where you don't change who you are, but you start to own who you are, you know?
I wonder how long Chris will take to like allow Evelyn to remember all the stuff that happened in heaven. Because I think that'll have a big role in bringing that about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I saw someone ask, when were you the most mad at Chris Perkins? That was it. Because I spent so long freaking out about Evelyn's been gone a year. She's had a year's worth of experiences. That's what he told me, that she'd been in heaven for a year as far as her own experience time. And, how would she change? What would she want? What would she decide to do the second she came back? And all of these things. And then he's like, and you don't remember. And so then I had to be like, erase all of that, go back to where I was before. And then also have that kind of subconscious dissonance of like, she made all these decisions, but she doesn't remember them. So somehow her soul has aged, but her mind has not. So there are things she wants and feels that are different than what she thinks she should want and feel. And how do you role play that in a way that communicates that? So mad at Chris Perkins, but also like, what an amazing role play challenge. It was really fun.
It's radical.
Shauna, you got a question? Hold on, you're muted.
You're muted, Shauna. Yep.
You're still muted, Shauna.
Oh, no.
Oh, there we go. Whoops.
There we go.
Mustache John in the chat asked, do you four ever collaborate offline to come up with things that in-game will surprise Chris?
Chair fight completely was planned.
Yes.
Really?
Well, not completely planned. We were all out and talking about we wanted to have a special Paladin and Strix moment because we want their relationship to blossom. And we were talking about what it would be like if Dieth wasn't home and like what everyone would do. And so we came up with the rough concept of chair fight where they would just get drunk and make chairs fight. But the whole like naming them Strahd von Cherevich and Chair Rickton, Evelyn witch streaming it and commentating it was spur of the moment. All of the like the dialogue and like the way it all went down was all spontaneous, but just the rough concept of like, we're going to have a chair fight, it's going to be hilarious, was something we planned. And specifically to surprise and delight Chris Perkins, which is a phrase that we specifically unironically use of like, how will we surprise and delight Chris Perkins? Because it's our goal. And there have been other ones too. And usually we don't like plan out dialogue or anything, but we'll say, hey, we want this situation to take place. And then sometimes be like, hey, Chris, can you give us room to have these two characters go off together? Or can you give us some time at the beginning of the episode to role play something out like chair fight? And then we'll set the scene and then we'll role play it out. So usually we don't know the outcome. We just know the scenario.
Rina, you got any questions?
Oh, and there are some other things like when we, there have been some like physical pieces that we've planned out. Like if we want to add something to our cosplay or something, we'll have to tell the other person like, hey, I'm going to give you this item, or I want you to notice this thing or whatever. That's another thing we do.
Rina, you got one?
Yeah, this is from chat as well. What do you think Evie would do if they meet Chris? And then a follow-up, Evie broke the fourth wall last time.
I want to tell you, but like if it ever comes that Evelyn does meet Chris, it'd be much better for me to actually just do the reaction without y'all knowing what it's going to be. So
fair.
Yes.
And then what was the other question?
Evelyn did break the fourth wall last time.
I mean, all of us are kind of doing it now. It's just kind of a dice camera action signature started by Paladin. When people hang out a lot, they start to take on each other's habits. Also, it was mostly just me, not Evelyn.
Yeah, fair.
Dylan, you got one?
I was gonna say that. Now that Juniper and Stinky are both gone, does Evelyn have like any interest in getting more pets?
Evelyn always has interest in getting more pets. And now, who knows how long Chris will let us keep Lance, the donkey.
Oh, I forgot about Lance. Oh my god.
Yeah. So she replaced in the same episode, she got a new pet. Which I don't think Chris meant to have as a pet, but Evelyn adopted them.
Golly.
As Evelyn will do.
Yeah. Evelyn collects souls. So, yes.
Not in the soulmonger way.
No.
Right. Right.
All right. One thing we talked a lot about last time was the group. Okay. See if I can say this right. So, last episode, you had the whole thing about Simon kept a little kid in a box for days, and the group was trying to decide what to do about it. And I felt like you should have just went to the authorities, but the group did not do that. And it kind of ties into this thing that keeps happening with the Waffle crew. They make a mess and then they leave it. You know what I mean? And you know what? In a lot of cases, though, it's not their fault, but it's like a recurring theme on the show, like Dieth with Mygara, and you let Mygara loose and just let it go, and then
no one knew that except Dia.
Yeah,
It's true.
and then when you fought the dragon turtle, like Port Nine's always like devastated by a wave. You guys are like, all right, well, we just better go. But you were very close to actually going back there. And then there was this.
Sent Omen.
Yeah. Then there was this. All right, little kid in a box. What do we do? And I just feel like now you've got this kid who knows too much. It's just like,
oh no,
this is just a dangling thing that's probably not going to end well. So I was just wondering, how close were you to turning, just going to the guards? And how did Evelyn feel about Paladin's overall reaction to it? I guess that's what I want to know.
Well,
I mean, is the Waffle crew good? I guess that's my big question.
oh
yes.
Yeah.
And an important thing to remember about Evelyn is that she is neutral good, not lawful good.
Mm-hmm.
And neutral good is different than chaotic good, where chaotic good is like whatever I think is good for the situation, I will do. Lawful good being whatever my code says is good for the situation, I will do. Neutral good, as I play it and as I understand it best, is more whatever is best for the person I am trying to serve in this situation, I will do. Or to every situation according to its needs. It's very contextual, and so that doesn't mean that I'm like, this is what I think is good. I'm assessing everything that I can see and making the most good choice here in context. And it's important to remember that Evelyn in many ways is an authority figure in Waterdeep. So she has kind of agency to make official decisions about issues. It's a little gray, but she has some agency there. The other thing is that when Evelyn did take the kid back to his parents, it wasn't like, I'm not going to the authorities. It was the first thing is to get this child to their parents, because I shouldn't have a suffering child go through that. And then once I speak to the parents, that's when we'll deal with the authorities, because I assume that the parents will be like, you kidnapped our kid.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to press charges. So when Evelyn went there, that's what she was trying to do, was face the due process, basically. But then again, with the neutral good thing, when the child themselves was like, I do not want my parents to know that I was kidnapped. And she did that insight check where it was like, she asked, what is the right thing? That's why I rolled that with Chris, because I didn't want it to be like Anna's assumption. I wanted it to be, what does Evelyn see here as a neutral good paladin who is trying to see the best situation? The kid's someone who seems to have a happy enough home life, seems to be being honest about what they want, seems to be okay, now has an emotional support pet, and wants to take that agency on themselves of deciding like, I don't want to be the victim. I don't want to go through this. That's something that I think even on a human level, I'm very cognizant of like a victim's choice of how to deal with a situation. So for me, that wasn't a like, Evelyn is making a gray decision to protect the Waffle crew. That was Evelyn is listening to the context of the situation and making a choice based on that, which, I mean, you can argue is a minor. So like if we're in the real world, like there's a lot more decisions that actually go into that. But here in the fantasy world of Dice Camera Action, Evelyn felt like that was the most good that she could do at that time. And also kind of a like, well, thanks Lathander for that layup there, Yeah. So, and then the other question was, how does she feel about how Paladin handled that? I'm still figuring that out because I need to see it through Evelyn's eyes in the next episode and see how it looks. But on the one hand, she doesn't expect Paladin to be good. because he's never been good. He's chaotic neutral, you know? And so, and he's made a lot of choices. He is, right? Chaotic neutral? I think he is.
I think so.
Yeah.
Seems
And he
safe.
makes a lot of choices that are like whatever's easiest for him at the time. And she knows that, and she doesn't think that's great, but it doesn't change how she feels about him. It's just who he is and what she expects from him. But I think the like, let's just kill the kid comment, she also knows he's very like Deadpoolian, right? So like if he says a lot of things for shock value and to be funny that aren't really real. So if she finds out that's the case, she'll be like, Paladin again, like saying those weird things that he says that don't make sense, him and his maymays, you know? But if he really was that cowardly, then it will affect how she sees his, at least his guidance. Because there's been a lot of, since they had that talk on the ship, where he was like, you keep running into situations and it's hurting our family and I need you to listen better, basically. She's been doing more of the like, Paladin, do you think we should do this? And like waiting or listening to him and showing him that kind of deference, where if that wasn't a joke and that was real, that's going to end real quick, you know, because she's not going to listen to somebody who thinks that's okay.
I got you. I kind of get that. Okay, what if what if the kid wanted it out in the open? Would Evelyn have gone to jail for this? Would she have willingly gone to jail? Yeah.
Totally.
How weird would that have been if Evelyn just went to jail?
It would have been a very hard thing to role play in a compelling manner, but
the perp walk.
Yeah. Evelyn is still in the jail cell 5 episodes later.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then what if Paladin like evaded the authorities? So like you're in jail and he's not. That would have been really weird.
Yeah.
Chris would have found some way to make it work.
He usually does.
With all the criminal underworld stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. They could have done all sorts of weird stuff with that. Shauna, you got a question?
No, go ahead. Still looking through chat. Sorry. Do you have one?
Well, there was one I just saw here. There's a million of them. This is depressing. I almost don't want to ask this, but MRRP01. Does Evelyn know her son is suicidal? And if so, how is she going to help him?
I don't think Paladin told her yet.
Uh-huh.
I think she will know because I think she'll ask, where did you find him? And I think Paladin will tell her. I'm extremely interested in this thing that Chris has asked us to role play, because it's a very, very serious thing. And I often talk about how Dungeons and Dragons is so compelling because it's something that is funny and escapist and, you know, that can help you kind of get away from your problems. But then it's also a way to deal with very real human issues in a low stakes environment where you can make mistakes and then learn from them, you know? And so I do not know how to parent a suicidal child. I'm not a parent. I've had only very tangential experiences with suicide. So it's something that I've been taking kind of seriously and have never had to consider before. And Chris does this to us all the time, where he drops something on us and then we sit with it for a week or two and think about, like, what do you do in that situation? And why did this situation happen? Like, the fact that it didn't even occur to any of us that Simon would be so sad, you know? And Chris was like, when you think about who, and I don't know if he said this on air, he may have said it to us after the show, but he was like, when you think about who Simon is and what he's been through, it makes sense. And we were like, of course it does. Like, he can't talk to his family. He can't express any of his needs. He lives with this group of people who, like, really don't show him a ton of affection, except almost kind of ironically, like, you know. And of course, it's a D&D game. It's fantasy. It's supposed to be kind of funny. And so I don't think you have to role play like rearing a child perfectly, but it was an interesting thing to be like, oh, we never thought of that. And what happens when a construct gets a soul and you don't take care of that soul, you know? So the question being, does Evelyn know and what's she going to do? I think once she finds out, she's going to have to answer some hard questions and figure it out, because she's never been a parent either. And she's never she's never felt purposeless before. She doesn't even have a frame of reference for that. So it's going to be probably pretty difficult for her to relate to her suicidal son, which is also going to be hard to roleplay because I, Anna, want to do a perfect job of parenting a suicidal child. But Evelyn might not be equipped to do that, you know? So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting.
Yikes. Shauna, do you have one?
Since we're going through, I'll ask. There's been considering a lot of talk about like D&D and like its growth and like Twitch streaming and stuff like that. Like being in position, where do you see it go? Because right now it's like it operates kind of like as a semi interactive like radio play. Like, is there a place that you see that thing kind of elevating that or changes to like kind of like become more using the medium more?
I think that that's a question I think a lot about. As you know, I'm lead producer for Twitch Studios, so part of our mission is to kind of inspire new types of content, stretch the capability of live streaming, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that I will be able to present some cool stuff in the future on stages, which I can't talk about yet, but I'm hoping I can push boundaries there. I think there are a lot of opportunities that we have yet to explore for making things even more immersive in terms of not only like production design if we do live episodes, but also interaction, because the way that the chat functions right now is very much like a live audience that can also speak to you without distracting you. So like, for example, if I'm doing an improv play, which is basically what Dice Camera Action is, and I'm doing it in front of a live audience, you can't actually have people like yell things out because it distracts from the play. But I have this amazing curated real-time reaction situation going on, which no other performing art form / platform has, which I'm obsessed with. I geek out about the fact that that is so unique. And so I think even more like when we potentially have Twitch extensions that can help us curate that experience, or that can help people play along, like if they can make their own characters that actually have interactions with ours, or, you know, the chat represents the crowd in the market, and how does their sentiment get swayed one way or the other, you know, actually being able to play in that kind of massively multiplayer online storytelling. I think a lot about that. And I think that's what's next. I think as tech and production start to expand, I think that's where D&D streaming will go next. And I'm trying really hard not to say some things that I'm like working on.
Yeah, because I definitely remember going to like watching like the live like PAX Unplugged thing, and kind of like it's cool. It was amazing, but it's like I usually watch it with chat. I'm like, I kind of miss chat a little bit in those things.
Yeah.
Rina, you got one?
I was listening so much I didn't look.
You want me to come back?
Give me a minute.
All right. People keep asking this. Why? Basically, people want Evelyn they want Simon to learn sign language so they can communicate. Is that something that's either with Thieves Can't or whatever? Is that something that might happen?
I wonder if it's something that might happen next episode.
I knew it.
Yes.
That's why I didn't ask.
Oh, interesting.
I wonder if we just happen to provide a character that knows sign language just now.
I'm sure it's a coincidence.
Could be. I don't know. You never know with Perkins.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true, right? Kid might explode or something. All right. Dylan, you got a question?
Kind of. Chris mentioned that Trolltide is coming up soon. And I don't know how much you know about that, Anna, but I know that Chris mentioned back at the Stream of Many Eyes that it's like a Halloween sort of festival in Waterdeep. So if Evelyn like dressed up, what would she dress up as?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. I don't want to commit to anything because I'll have to think about that for the week. But like the first thing that comes to mind is like, you know, princess, fairy, you know. But I say that, but then I think that like those are the low-hanging fruit. I want to surprise you with something better. So I'll have to think about that. That's a really good. How about this? I'll take suggestions because you guys always think of better things than I will. So if you're watching right now and you want to suggest what Evelyn would dress up as for Halloween, just tweet at me.
The one I was thinking was werepom. Evelyn loved being a werewolf.
She loved being a werewolf. That's true.
And then it went away. And
I know. She still misses that.
And I think you got like you were in Storm King, and near the beginning, you had a chance to be a werewolf again, but it didn't work out. It was just.
I know.
It was
so sad.
It's like that's her true, you know, that's her ultimate.
Someday when she's in heaven again, maybe Lathander will let her be a werewolf.
At last. At last.
A werewolf riding on a Pegasus.
Amazing. Majestic.
With beautiful white purr and a cute little button nose.
Rita, do you have a question?
I saw this a little bit ago. If someone were to make a graphic novel of DCA, which season should they do first?
Oh, which season? Which season should they do first? Well, I mean, if they're doing a graphic novel, they should do all the seasons, so they should start with season 1. But if I had to pick a season that's like the most defining, I think it'd probably be 2. I think the arc that started with the Stream of Annihilation all the way through to like mid 70s is some of the best. I'm partial to the 50 through 53 section, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Yeah. 52
makes sense.
52 is probably the one where Evelyn dies, sort of. It's probably still my favorite. I can't think of any other one.
There was just a lot in that, and of course I'm selfishly drawn to it because that was one of the biggest Evelyn moments, but also there was a lot of telling things about all the characters, a lot of huge shockers, a lot of like dice that told the tale better than we possibly could.
And the natural 20. Yeah.
And then 58, I think it was the reuniting after the 50 years for Strix. And the 50 years for Strix was obviously super defining. The executions at the hand of Strahd were obviously super defining. So for me, a lot of those are like, if you want to understand the Waffle Crew, there's so much in this. So if people ask me when to jump in, if they're like, I cannot start at the beginning, where should I jump in? I usually tell them jump in at the Stream of Many Eyes or the Stream of Annihilation, because it's not like you won't miss anything, but you can learn so much about the characters in those first 10 episodes that you can get caught up pretty fast.
That's where I started watching. So yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
And it was
started watching like
it was around that time that Shemeshka first showed up too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. All right, we got
a lot of big things.
It's about time to wrap it up, but I had one more thing I wanted to ask you about. It was something I think that came up on Twitter today. And Shauna, you kind of clarified this for me a little bit, so just correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Hasbro CEO said something along the lines of that D&D and esports go together, but apparently he might have been talking more about Magic the Gathering than anything else. But that, like, a lot of people had a lot of very strong reactions to that. So you know a lot about this stuff, Anna, so I kind of wanted to see what you thought about that. And like, because it's like there's like two things, right? I think the popular D&D as a show is popular, right? But when you go to esports, you're talking about kind of competitive kind of stuff. And, you know, they've had that in D&D, you know, forever at conventions where, like, they used to have the D&D World Championship where, you know, all these groups go through the same dungeon and they get scored on how well they do. I was just wondering, do you think D&D as an esport, would that work? And how do you think it would work?
If you allow me to redefine things a little bit, I will say I've been in esports a long time. My entry into streaming, performing, that kind of stuff, a lot of it was in StarCraft 2 which is a highly competitive strategic esport.
Sure.
And the reason that I got into that was not because I love watching people compete. It was because the human stories around it and the community around it were so interesting and powerful and compelling. And people needed to have their stories told. And so I was never going to be a pro StarCraft player, but I loved talking to pro StarCraft players and making videos of them talking about their life and what's at stake in this game. What do you have to prove here? Who is going to see you succeed? And what is that going to mean to you? Those kinds of things. And the way that the community had such power, if you took the StarCraft community back then and you directed them towards something and they all bought in, you could really break stuff in a good way. You could make a really big positive difference. And so that's why I got into esports, not because of the like, we could be like ESPN, but because of I found people who care about something together and want to do something together and have power together. Like one example is we used to spend a lot of time on teamliquid.net, which was a forum for StarCraft. And I was trying to raise $300 for Children's Miracle Network. And I put in my blog just a link to like, hey, I'm just trying to raise money for charity. Here's why it's a really good cause. I know it has nothing to do with StarCraft, but like if anyone just feels like throwing $5, that would be amazing because it's a really, really good cause. Within 10 minutes, they broke the site because they had donated so much that they crashed the Children's Miracle Network donation site. And that's when it clicked for me, was like, these are people who are passionate and capable and care about something and care about each other, you know, and want to help each other. So all of this is to say, I don't want Dungeons and Dragons to be competitive necessarily. People do it competitively and that's really fun. But like the way that Dice Camera Action is, for example, it's not about being competitive. It's about exploring and telling stories. But the similarities that I find between especially that early esports world and here are so many, where it's like the reason I'm into this is because it's something we're all doing together, that we're all bought in on, that we all have power when we choose to do something good. And I think the Dungeons and Dragons community is exceptional in that the norms that govern us are very often kindness, acceptance, a sense of listening first, you know? And so when you say D&D is like esports, I think in the sense of it being a community of people that are going to continue to grow something and hopefully be good stewards of it as it becomes even more successful and profitable and all of these things. That's what I see. And I think that if people want to play D&D competitively, that's great. And if they want to play it not at all and they want to dress up as their favorite characters, great. If they want to do fan art or write fiction around it, great. If they want to just watch shows, great. Like one of the things I'm most passionate about is you play D&D however you want, because what's more important is that you're here and experiencing these things together, not how you do that. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my answer.
Where I still feel like it's funny when 5th edition hit and it was a success. In the beginning, I was like thinking about it in terms of past editions, where like, you know, there's like a boom period of a year or two and then it drops. But this one, and I hate even saying it because I don't want to jinx it, but it just goes up, 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 and it feels like it's not going away anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So like my question kind of is, where is this going? I feel like we're still in the very early days of whatever this is going to become. And so, like, when he talks about esports and blah, 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 it feels like, okay, well, what is this going to be? Like, you have your live acquisitions Inc. shows, and those are kind of like the big thing. Like, what's the Super Bowl of D&D? Like, do you think it's going to be like, is it just like the Stream of Annihilation and those kind of shows? Are those like the big yearly online event of D&D? Or do you think there might be something more than that, like a con built around that? Do you have any ideas on where this all could go to if things continue to grow?
I think the idea of a live streamed D&D tournament with very skilled role players is super interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't play D&D competitively, but I think it's cool that you can. Mm-hmm. And I think if you had really skilled role players and did a stream of that could be cool. So when you're talking about the esports element, the Super Bowl element, like I would watch that. Mm-hmm. For me, what's more interesting and more compelling, and that when you ask what's my vision of the future, it's it's more along the lines of like an entertainment extravaganza, like how you would view a comedy special or something like that, where it's like your favorite players and their story maybe go on the road on a tour, or maybe they are in a special presentation in a really cool theater that people get to come to. But what I think we talked about before with the missing element of that, and what makes D&D and Twitch such an important and perfect match, is figuring out how to make that still interactive and using technology to supplement that. Because, for example, a comedy special may be like recorded and put on Netflix and then you consume it alone. I think the shared real-time experience of D&D, and again, I use that like massively multiplayer storytelling thing, is what makes it so interesting. So I think for me, my like cool utopian Super Bowl future is like, what if we did that in a theater or a coliseum where the players have access to data that shows them how multiple people are reacting at once, and so in short, my where is this going is new tech that enables more inclusion, that creates better stories and crazy entertainment experiences.
I love the idea of somebody doing a show where they go on tour and every week they do a live show in front of a different crowd in a different city.
Right.
How crazy would it be if they actually sold tickets and people came and everything? How crazy is that? That could actually
That's something that and we do that on a very small level right now. I mean, Dice Camera Action has done shows in many different cities. It's just a matter of, what's next and how do you make that feasible? Because, you have to have, the thing is that business-wise, our shows are basically marketing vehicles for Dungeons and Dragons. And so how do we transition to a point where the content itself has value? And then what do we do with that to create industry, income, business around that? And I think we will. I think this is very reminiscent of early Twitch StarCraft days for me. So it's very exciting to be kind of on the crest of the wave.
Cool. I mean, I want to live in a world where people get paid to play D&D, and I think we're pretty close.
It's happening.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's true.
All right. I'm sorry to keep you so long. Why don't we do plugs real quick, and then we will go. Anna, I know you said your plugs on DCA, but do you have any plugs that you want to plug?
Thursday at 5 p.m. I'll be back on Trapped in the Birdcage on twitch.tv/D&D with Holly Conrad as DM and playing Will, my kleptomaniac cool girl who's not Evelyn. And I usually have a big event coming up, but I'll also be on Twitch weekly on Friday at 1. I always am on twitch.tv/Twitch. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitch and Instagram and Twitter at Anna Prasa.
Okay, Rina, do you have any plugs?
Well, I do the recaps for Dark and Dicey. I'm catching up. I'm actually catching up. So those should be up soon.
Cool.
This Saturday, Aya, who's in the chat, and I are co-DMing one shot that we wrote together.
Nice.
So that'll be fun.
Cool.
Check
What
it
channel?
out. On hers, it's Aya Gollander, if I pronounced that right. I'm sorry if I didn't, Aya. But it's on her Twitch channel. So, yeah, Dylan is in it.
Yep.
Cool.
Masquerade Ball.
Yeah.
Ooh, fun.
Dylan, do you have any plugs?
I do. Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on the Greyhawk channel, I am in Sean's Secrets of Castle Greyhawk campaign. We're exploring demi-planes in D&D's original dungeon. Ooh,
cool.
Fun. Saturday, I'm in the Masquerade thing with Rina. Also Saturday on this channel, Peril at the Port, hopefully. Spell Squad. Looking forward to it. My Triton Sorceress, who's dead currently, but
yeah,
you know.
You died. It was horrible.
She'll get better.
Yeah, she'll get better. She disintegrated. Whatever.
She turned into chalky dust. It was horrible.
And Sunday at 4:30 Eastern Time on JE Briggs 79, we're playing Will Doyle and Lisa Chen's adventure, Rats of Waterdeep.
Nice.
So
a good module.
Always fun running a Lisa adventure on a stream. It's like the best thing ever. Her adventures are awesome. Awesome.
They are.
That last one we did was really good. Shauna, do you have any plugs?
Yes. Tomorrow on Wednesday, I'm in a Star Wars game on Connor Roleplay at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Saturday, I think around 6:30, I'm going to be on one of Sean's games with the high level wizard, special guest apparently, which we do not know. And Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern time on the D&D channel, it's Hell's Bells, where we teach a small tiefling child bad things. And
all right, plugs. I won't do all of them. I'll just do a couple. Ready? Tomorrow, Greyhawk channel, Mordenkainen's Path of the Plains. We're trapped in hell. It's horrible. That's at 2 p.m. on the Greyhawk channel Eastern time. And then, this is the one I want to say, because it's related to Anna slightly. 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on Power Score RPG. I'm going to be running the Blood War adventure that's on the DM's Guild right now. I have a special guest player. This player has played in games with Anna before. Who is it? I can't say. It's a surprise. You'll find out at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, as long as this person can make it at that time. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We will see you next week with another thrilling Waffle Talk. If you missed some of this, it'll be re-air at 7 p.m. Eastern on the D&D channel. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, I'm hitting the
Thank
button.
you.